Much aloha to the family, much aloha to the tribe. Hope everyone out there is doing well. I hope everyone out there is blessed. Hopefully, I'll be able to do this in a timely fashion, so not to keep you as long as the last time. With that being said, let us continue our journey in a mystery, as it were. Let's continue our discussion in ethereal matters. Previously we took a look at geniuses and demons, going with the tone for the time period, right? And today I wanted to look at spirits and ghosts. Spirits and ghosts. Now, to most people, there's no difference between a spirit and a ghost. However, the distinction is undeniable and it is often made. Most things spiritual tend to have a positive spin, except in opposition to other spiritual things. And most things ghostly tend to have a negative spin, except in opposition to other things ghostly. And have you ever just taken a step back and have you ever noticed that trend? Have you even wondered why that is? Well, in my search for the indigenous truth, I've done so because I wanted to be able to not only answer questions, but I want to be able for you to be able to also answer questions being armed with that information. Now, when you examine and compare the meanings, one could argue a fight for the moral high ground in their infancy. And that's what we're going to take a look at today. A ghost. Ghost is, breath. Good or bad spirit. Angel, demon, person, man, human being in the biblical use. Soul, spirit, life from the Proto-West Germanic, right? Now, I want to be clear about that because how you read that can definitely play a factor in how you understand it. So it states that it's a good or bad spirit, and then you have angel, demons, person, man, and human beings as if those are all separate, and the only thing that can be good or bad is the spirit. But the other way of reading that is that it is good or bad spirit, a good or bad angel, a good or bad demon, a good or bad person, a good or bad man, or just a good or bad human being. Now, you tell me which makes more sense when you hear it which way. But the biblical use is soul, spirit, and life. Now, please understand how this works. Because you also get very familiar sounds. So you get jest, like your joker or your jester, right? And if you've been surfing the wave, there's a lot of acceptance in clowns not being what we thought that they were. A young man when we were younger used to say he used to hate clowns, and I know a lot of people that actually hate clowns since him, but he was one of the first because he was avid about it since we were kids. And I also remember the movie, what's that movie, The Killer Clowns from Outer Space, which, trust me, it was a horrible movie. But it really hammered home the point that clowns aren't as, benevolent as we like for them to be or appear. Now, then you think about things like the Joker, right? Things of that nature. But then you also notice what we have other word forming sounds, such as Middle Dutch's Geist, right? Or Geist, if you're German. And the current zeitgeist is changed. The current ghost is changing as we see things and understand things today. Now, it states here that the notion of the word forming element, right, is one of excitement, amazement, or fear. You see the Sanskrit hita, right, for wrath and things of that nature. Now, when you take a step back and you look at spirit, now spirit is, life, the animating or vital principle in man and animals. Now, let's just pause right there. Because when it comes to a ghost, animals are not included. You notice that? I guess this is why, how's the saying? All dogs go to heaven. So when you're speaking of spirit, you're talking that old French, right? Spirit is spirit, which is the spirit or soul. Directly from the Latin spiritus, right? A breathing, respiration, also of the wind, breath, also breath of God. Wow. The name of God is breath. You do it every chance you get, right? Hence inspiration, breath of life, hence life itself. Because if you don't have a breath, then you don't have life. It is also attested from mid 14th century, it says, meaning character, disposition. You play a lot of your games right now. We have things like your role-playing games, your Dungeons and Dragons, right? Where you build a character, or if you are more techie, I mean, we're talking about when you build your character for your 2K, because character also is a disposition. It's a way of thinking and feeling. It's a state of mind. It's the source of human desire. In Middle English, freedom of spirit meant freedom of choice. Freedom of choice. It seems that we are losing a lot of our ability to choose, right? It's tested from 1580s in a metaphoric sense of animation and vitality. You got a lot of people, such as even self-included, right? Or we love our anime. But by the 1600s, it says it's the frame of mind with which something is done. Also mettle, vigor of mind, and courage. Now, let's pay attention to that, right? Because I'm pretty sure when you say ghost or when I say ghost, this is what we get here. We have a maybe positive, but mostly negative approach to ghost, right? And yet, when it comes down to spirit, we have mostly a positive approach, right? That's not for no reason. That's the way it is. And again, a lot of people, a lot of times you may see or hear that they're interchangeable, but they, they do share a space, as it were. But they definitely come from two different categories. Now, while spirit pertains to man and animals, ghost pertains to types and kinds of man. It states that, when it comes to ghosts, you're talking about the psyche, right? But the spirit is the pneuma. When you're talking ghost, you're talking animus. But when you're talking spirit, you're talking spiritus. Right now, we are at a crossroads, as it were, as we marvel at AI, right? The idea of downloading our conscious in a world of our creation, or the idea of uploading AI into a body of our, of our making, are two sides of the same coin. Two sides, one function. As above, so below. And we'll get more and more into it as we continue, because there's definitely more to come. I wanted to make sure that we had a better grip and understanding as we continue to build. Food for thought. Would you want to live forever if living was a prison? In Eastern philosophies, they say that you want to reach nirvana, right? You want to elevate, become the Buddha, and elevate beyond the cycle. In Western thought and Christian theology, you kind of get this weird mixing between with purgatory, right, and being born again, being renewed while still here on earth. But then they also shun at the same time reincarnation. You only get one shot at this. And even beyond that, you have those that are of the mindset that, again, you're just living an experience, a stream of consciousness, as it were. Wherever you live and wherever you fall on these matters, doesn't matter to me. But I hope and pray that you at least know the path you're walking. I hope and pray that you are not made a joke, right? I hope that you can lean on your character, your mettle, and be encouraged. Because I don't want you to be a joker. I don't want you to be just an apparition, a specter, as life passes you by. Much hop to the family. Much hop to the tribe. I love you. Peace.